Hello, everyone, and welcome to our circle and Salve Women. For today, we're going to talk about how to keep the splendor of peace. This is really, for me, the four components. I'm sure we could find more, but I really wanted to make sure that it was as succinct as I could possibly make it. And so I kept it at four. And it's important to understand that protecting peace is something that I feel honestly, if not every day, every moment. And, because you could be at great wonderment of how calm and peaceful life is, that serenity where you're just like, this feels so good right now. And, everyone's peace is different. It could be in Times Square where there's lots of just combustion of energy. Or it could be fishing at a lake somewhere where no one sees you and you're just in a cabin all by yourself and you're living with, the smallest means. That's your peace. You have to define what that is for you. And no one else can take that away from you unless you truly have given yourself that open gate to say, take it. But there will be those that try, and so that is what I mean by that constant protection, that God of armor, or the armor of God, where you're always making certain that you, just like Nehemiah and all those who were working to rebuild walls, they were aware that there were going to be those trying to take them down. And I didn't mention that in my article, but if you've read enough of the things I've written, all of these just pretty much overlap each other with the same positive move in the positive direction to inspire you in whatever way I can. If it's a sentence that you hear from my message out of, I don't know, the 10, 15, 20 minutes that I'm speaking to you or that I've written, that is enough for me, because I know that it is beyond me to have this excitement, to have this inner peace, to really share these reflective moments that I feel I can't just keep within, that I must share out. So, with that said, in really protecting your peace, I think having almost, oh my goodness, just almost 2 years shy of half a century old, I just really think, and that to me is greater wisdom. So I'm actually happy with that, because you know how you were when you were much younger, when you thought you knew everything. I still remember Whitney Houston in one of her interviews saying that, I think she was mentioning about when you're in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, and she was talking about being in her 40s. Like, you just realize there's so much more to know. And so, yes, you arrive at that, and that is not just a humbling, but it's just real. Just accepting to it. That's part of growth, and it's actually that allowability within yourself to be vulnerable and accept it. That to me is empowering, because now I can own it and just be real with it. I don't have to pretend. I don't have to pretend that I have to have every answer to every question. My husband, that's one of those things that he has shared with me, that he truly would rather feel, I've been working on it, and he's so proud of me, but that I don't have to feel like I have that I have to have an answer to everything, that I don't have to act like I know everything. But he then had to realize you come from that, where it was like, if you couldn't give an answer, you just weren't significant, and or that maybe I always felt like Papa was always asking me questions and I had to answer, and just to make him proud, and so for me it was just that, and being the youngest and being just really innately competitive in my own way. Everyone's competitive in their own way, I believe, and so for me it was always like, I wanted to have the knowledge to give you the right answer, so I would try and I would speak out loud, and so if I was wrong, I would hope that you gave me mercy and grace, because at least you would know that I would try to get it right eventually. And it didn't hurt anyone, hopefully. So with that said, the first one is observe your surroundings. And this is not to be misunderstood as possessions or prosperity. There's nothing wrong with any of those. Those are blessings. We got to take it in. We've got to clap for others when they have it, because that is, to me, when you start to see that around you, people need to really embrace that and understand that all of a sudden you are being encouraged to do the same, to be the same, to have the same. Mayweather once said that. Again, I'm not into television or anything like that, but my husband and I, we do these, like, we follow some shorts and just some positivity. Anything that's negative, we just pass through. But we're trying to take in anything positive. And that really, during the pandemic, I think is when we started to really do that. I think a lot of us did. You either went and looked for darkness or you looked for some light. Thankfully for us, we leaned into the light even more. And so, I remember Mayweather stating something about, like, you surround yourself with people who are going to, something about, who had more knowledge, who were better than you. Because if you are the smartest, and I don't know if I'm overlapping it from someone else's words, but they all come from the great minds and same mentalities, where if you are the smartest, the strongest, or the best in the room, you're doing something wrong. You got to get out of there. And so I'm always enthralled by people who have greater wisdom. Perhaps this is why I'm always, reading or asking people questions. And when I used to go work out early in the morning and I was working out with people who were retired, this one guy next to me, I was always looking forward to, because he had actually fought in Korea. And so for me to hear his story, that was a time when I was writing my first book, and I'm like asking him questions because I really wanted to get into his mind of what he thought. Just to interview someone where you don't have to read a book. Are you kidding me? That's priceless, And so for me, I would always be like asking him questions. He's probably thinking to himself, like, let me just work out, but it never hurt to push a little bit. And I would thank him for his time or whatever. But, it was nice. It was nice to get wisdom, whatever it was that he could give me every time I saw him. And so here is really observing your surroundings, because you have to understand that I mentioned this in my previous video, about tabula rasa, is like, sometimes you think that should be your life. You're chasing someone else's dream. You are really trying so hard to get into the mind of someone else. There's nothing wrong with being inspired. There's nothing wrong with trying to emulate someone else's life. However, all of a sudden, when you are not feeling content, when you're not at peace because you feel like you will never get there, you just have to tell yourself you're there every day. Like, I remember looking in the mirror, and I've said this and shared the story with my husband, in the light of things, and saying, I would tell myself, you know what, you're beautiful, you're smart. And this is why I connected so much in the movie The Help, because when she would say, and I had a frame, I don't remember if you remember some of the former videos, I actually wrote that in here and put it on my wall, and until I was able to then say, I'm good with it. It's now in me and I believe it. But I'm that person, like, who puts inspirational things to look at. I do great things. Victory belongs to the most persevering. For my principal, who would put these things in my box, and I don't think she realizes, things like that matter to me. My students, I have countless, thank yous and so forth that, again, I've put in Ziploc bags. I don't even share that with my own children, because what they've given me is beyond compare, and it's like, those are just things that matters to me, and it's all for my heart, my mind, my body, and my spirit. Like, my soul takes it in, and it uplifts me, and it keeps me going and strengthens me. But it's like, it hurts and it stings a little bit, because I see my students who don't realize they could be the next president. They could be the next, just Mahatma Gandhi, or however, and, everyone could say something about someone that wasn't so great and so forth, but they did something great, right? They did something that moved mountains, so to speak, that all of a sudden people were like, whoa, I could have never done that. And so to me, when I look at the things that people have done, those were children at some point. And so here we are thinking we will never have peace until we get what they have, or, we get to do what they get to do. And how come I can't, do a free throw 3-pointer like that? Or how come I can't kick a soccer ball like that? How come I can't be a celloist like that? I look at people, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. That's just, you just you're thankful that they get to give you their gift and they get to share it with you, because that is that free ticket to that entertainment, that wisdom that people are surrounding you with. I mean, things don't have to cost, anything to really be enlightened by what you want out of life. Like, it just go to a grocery store and ask people questions. Those are sometimes the best things to do, is just look, observe, listen, and it's just fascinating things that you can pick up from the gym, at church, or just anywhere. It's amazing because people have lived, and they were made to give you something that you probably didn't know you needed. So with that said, observe your surroundings, because sometimes there are those who will work really hard to take away your peace, and you don't realize it until perhaps it may be too late. And then you look back and go, I let that happen. I let that happen. Observe the words that try and enter you. Again, from my article, I came from blood is thicker than water, and I went into the same line of snitches get stitches, kind of thing that I would hear my students say, because there's always something that is like the phrase of the year or so. And so I eventually would ask my students, who tells you those things? Who do you think is giving you that kind of message? Are the people who don't want to get in trouble, or the ones trying to stop trouble? And it is like silence. It's always great to ask questions that allows a student to listen. When I say student, children, adult, anybody, because we're all students. And it makes you go, because I fell for that blood is thicker than water all the time. And granted, family is a beautiful thing, but it can also be bad blood if you don't understand that, yes, scientifically speaking, we can argue that blood is thicker than water. And yet, is it truly essential where you feel like you are willing to let go of water to keep blood? Think about that. 70% of this world is water. Only 30% of it is land. And, so same thing with your body. And you wake up 70% water, 30%. Again, mathematically, you could just be very exact to that. And how hard would that be to be very exact? But really, essentially, that 7 to 3. And you have to think to yourself, how is it that I have allowed this to enter my mind? And I want to own it and say it's because I wanted to believe it. I needed that at that point. I needed these people in my life just to make me feel better and greater about myself. And I needed my wrongs to be right. And so I stuck with the wrong because I knew their wrongs would make me feel just as right. And, and it's just, then that's where you go, okay, where's my character here? Where's my strength in me, in my direction? Where am I heading toward with this, though? Am I going to continue to just falsify my life so that I can hang with these people and then look where they're going, where they've been, how long has it been that they've been there, and is it the direction that I want for myself? Is it that full gratitude that I will have for me, that I have done for me by making that decision? Because it's not their fault. Ultimately, it is your freedom that you have been given, that you have been gifted to understand that really it is in you to protect what is yours. And only when you open that gate and go, welcome, come on in, take what you want, is it then your accountability, right? Essentially of saying to yourself, okay, I let that happen. And so, yes, in this world, there are those who have taken advantage of others, and education's taken away because sometimes you've been fooled to believe something that wasn't. But, there's that piece and you go, something's wrong here. And that's when you have to say to yourself, observe the words that try and enter you, because you may be listening to something only because you want to believe it, but it may not be something you should be believing or is true. Observe time and peace. Now, I remember just walking through a forest and just seeing some beautiful bamboo trees that were so thick. And I remember even cutting one because you could make it into like a piggy bank, if you cut each little stem of a trunk. And so, those were like awesome memories to me, because You just don't know what you have until you don't have it anymore. And when you don't see those things anymore, and just how organic they were, and its beauty, just you don't even realize that that stuff. That's why people pay a lot of money for it now, is because it's just so unique. And all of a sudden, the antiquity of it is like, now the supply and demand is like, oh, I'm willing to have that because not that many people have it, right? And yet now, Mama had told me many years already where she had said they don't have those anymore because they cut them too fast. And I hear that about the Amazon. I hear that, when they need to make tire, and they need to have open up, some roads in the sea. So even you call this a path in the sea, and so they're cutting down trees and so forth. So I know those things are happening. And so to me, that is that time and space where you have to then think, this is my time, this is my space. If I want to build a foundation and good solid framework, what materials am I using to build up that solidarity? This piece where all of a sudden I know it's good and it is well. So really think about your time in your space and how you protect that, because sometimes speeding up something just to get there does not mean you were supposed to get there at the time that you thought you were supposed to get there. Your house may not be as solid and as strong. I remember a builder, or one of the contract people that was doing something in our home, and he had told me this. He goes, stay away from that city because they're building houses so fast. This is when all these houses were being built. He said the foundation is leaning, and like they're not even allowing the ground to settle, so that when these houses are being built, all of a sudden you could put a ball in the middle of the home and it would roll to the left or to the right. And I was just like, oh, thank you for that information. Bought a house already anyway, but he was telling me these things because these were his observations, and that told me, wow, no matter how beautiful something is, because it was a beautiful city he was speaking of, and the houses were definitely costly, he taught me that, you know what, if you don't have a strong foundation, and if your framework is not really solid, it doesn't matter. After a few years, it's not going to be as beautiful as you thought it was. Architecturally, yes, but scientifically engineered, no, right? And so with that, I will go on to my very last one. Observe those with you and for you. I've been together with my husband for over 30 years now. We have 5 beautiful children, all naturally coming out of me, and every one of them worth everything that I gave, from the moment that they were in me to the moment that they were delivered, to every moment that I have done all the best I could with my husband to raise them. And yet there are people who will try to really take in. It doesn't matter what you have. If you have a pet, if you have a home, if you have a career, whatever it is, your dreams, whatever it is that you're working toward, like it is your peace, your center. There are those that will be with you and for you, who will be passing the ball. I mentioned Cristiano Ronaldo. I hopefully said that correctly. My son, only thing he wanted was a jersey. I added the socks and a little memorabilia in there and the shorts. So happy. He was like totally speechless and very happy with that. It just goes to show you it's what they, he had asked for that really meant something to him. But, he told me that story about, his friend passing the ball to him, even though all the scouts were at watch. And, it's just amazing to me how someone kind of owns it in them to go, hold on, he's the better player. Let him have the light. And I look at my husband, and no matter what, if you've ever been in something and you've invested in something for a long period of time, there will always be those that'll question, how long is that going to be? I mean, people have been saying that from the time that my husband and I have been together. And, thankfully, I have never been into peer influence, not to that degree where I feel like it controls me. I mean, of course, to a level of, let me test that water for a second. And then you go, too tepid, too whatever, right? And so I have been thankful to really truly believe in him as much as believed in me. And in the eyes of others, it may not look like it, because we bump heads all the time. We keep each other in check. I question. I'm one of those that, he would just go, if you would just listen. I'm that way. It's just like, but hold on, gotta have last word. And I'm learning that I don't always have to. But at the same time, it's like he was the one from the get-go that really truly just passed me the ball, saying, you know what, you got this. And there are times where he would probably, analogically speaking, holding the ball going, is this really the direction that you want to go? And I'm grateful for that, because sometimes you're just wanting to hurry up and kind of go, I want to show people what I can do. And it's not always going to be the best way to go about it. And there could be really a better move, a better pathway. And, we have to take that all in and really think about it. And, know that even though people are there with you and they're saying they're for you, have they directed you in a better place? Or have they made you doubt yourself and doubt your abilities, your potential, your everything to get to where you thought you could be, and now you've settled? And if you own that, own it. If you're happy with it, be happy with it. But at the same time, when it comes to protecting your peace, so at the end of the day, you're not disgruntled, always observe those with you and for you, because that's important, along with, again, observing your surroundings, observing the words that try and enter you, observing time and peace that is yours, and then observing, of course, once again, and observe those with you and for you. And then when you say peace be with you, then you're hoping for abundance with everyone, so that they're not trying to take away yours, because no one has the right? When you're happy, when you're content, when you're whole, when you know all is well in your soul, you want it for everybody else. You want them to feel the same, and you want to rejoice. You want to share that feeling. And it's something that you have to protect, because if others want it, they don't believe, they perceive they don't have it within to get it themselves. They may dig in your direction, and then that's when you have to go, hold on. Don't mistake my kindness for, weakness. Right? So, in the words of my mother, God bless us all. I always try to make this short, but it is what it is. So, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening.